In the 24 hours after Robert Russell was extradited, police reported 56 hijackings, 17 bombings, 23 shooting incidents and nearly 200 attacks on the security forces. The RUC station at New Barnsley in West Belfast came under fire from a heavy machine gun. In all, 11 policemen, 1 soldier and 3 civilians were hurt. In terms of the number of terrorist incidents, it's the worst the city has suffered since the violence at the time of the May's hunger strikes 7 years ago. The police officer in charge of much of the Nationalist Falls and Springfield Road area of West Belfast says it's part of a sustained effort to terrorise the community. Robert Russell's extradition was no more than an excuse. Today, the streets have been quiet here as local people and the security forces assess the damage of this latest night of violence.
People in Northern Ireland are tonight asking whether this incident is an early sign of the security changes promised by the Secretary of State last week after a run of violence in the province. Local people in the Omagh area claim one of the 3 killed was amongst those arrested by the security forces last week in connection with the bombing of an army bus in which 8 soldiers died. All 3 killed were apparently known Republicans. Sinn Féin, the political wing of the IRA, claimed 2 of them were brothers. One of the first at the scene was a local priest.
It's quite horrific. It's just the tragic circumstances in which people seem to die in this part of the world.
The police are giving few details except to say soldiers opened fire on armed men in a vehicle and 2 rifles were later recovered. Today's killings have brought swift reaction from the DUP MP for the area where the incident took place.
I would welcome what happened today and the effective measure taken by the security forces today, provided that this is something that hurls a change of direction in security policy. I therefore am calling upon the government to ensure that this is a definite change of direction, and what we're going to witness in Ulster is an effective military, aggressive, offensive
gone to a nearby flat as they hadn't seen their young man neighbour for several days. A man in his 50s climbed through a window, a booby-trap bomb went off, killing him and an elderly woman on the balcony outside. Another man was injured. The flat's occupant had been kidnapped by the IRA several days ago. The terrorists' plan was to kill security forces when they came to check the flat. This, to use the IRA's phrase, is their latest tragic mistake. Since last November, the IRA has killed 19 people in botched operations. And while their recent attacks have killed many members of the security forces, the terrorists have lost many members too. As the pictures of dead IRA men at last year's Sinn Féin conference in Dublin underlined, the organisation has lost 25 members in violent deaths in 20 months. And the SAS, the indications are, carried out the latest operation which killed 3 IRA men. The government will not confirm or deny the SAS involvement. Indeed, it encourages the secrecy and mystique of the regiment. It has 2 European-based squadrons, one in Hereford, one in Northern Ireland. Their operations and training symbolise what army undercover operations are all about: speed, firepower and aggression.
To throw light on the background and activities of the 2 men held in West Germany. They themselves gave names, age and place of birth, but nothing more, to the Supreme Court in Karlsruhe. Terence McGeough, who's 30 tomorrow, comes from Dungannon in County Tyrone. He's known to the British authorities, having twice had exclusion orders signed against him. He's been on the run since attempting to murder a part-time UDR soldier in 1981. He was shot in the chest, but escaped from hospital. The other man, Gerard Hanratty, who's 29, comes from Andersonstown in West Belfast. He had a British passport and driving licence, which the West Germans say are in a false name. He's also on the run, having been charged with conspiring to murder police officers in Belfast 4 years ago and having jumped bail. The Belgian police are sending to Germany bullets used in the murder of a British soldier in Ostend last month. A revolver was used and 3 revolvers were discovered in the men's car yesterday. The German police have already asserted that bullets fired from a getaway car involved in the bomb attack on British Army barracks at Duisburg in July came from a Kalashnikov rifle also found in the car. And the same weapon is also being linked with an IRA attack on 3 British airmen in the Netherlands in May. Dutch and Belgian police have now joined British and West German police working in the border area. McGeough and Hanratty can be held indefinitely until their trial. They're now in a maximum security prison.
The operation is now underway to protect Gibraltar from any possible reprisals by the IRA. The problem of defending military targets has eased slightly because hundreds of soldiers normally based in the colony are currently on exercises in Britain. A number of barracks close to public roads are now conveniently empty. Those soldiers who are still here go on patrol in full combat gear, although in this case they're protecting a deserted base. At the courthouse where the inquest will be held, no one can now get in without being searched. At the rear of the building, an army tent has been erected to conceal a door that leads directly into the court. It's designed to shield from prying eyes members of the SAS. It's assumed here that the SAS will give evidence, although lawyers for the Crown are giving nothing away. Can you tell us if the SAS will be coming tomorrow?
No, I'm not talking to the press at the moment, I'm afraid, though it's very nice to see you.
The government has said that the inquest will be the only inquiry into the deaths of the 3 terrorists and clearly expects the actions of the soldiers to be vindicated by the jury's verdict. Families. He says their attitude to the inquest is simple.
It's not one of vengeance. They're still very sad and very sorry about the deaths of their loved ones, and they want the truth to come out. I think that's the least they could expect.
The car driven into Gibraltar by the IRA team has now been taken into the yard at the rear of the court, ready for examination by the jury. The bomber's intended target was the weekly guard mounting ceremony. Tomorrow, as the inquest begins, the soldiers will once again be marching through the town. Crossed into Gibraltar from Spain. They said they wanted to remember their dead with a dignified ceremony. Some local residents jeered and sounded their car horns as the flowers were laid. The reaction in this strongly pro-British colony was not unexpected. For the first time in his career, the Gibraltar coroner, Mr. Felix Pizzarello, had a police escort when he left home this morning. Stringent security precautions include protecting the man who's presiding over the most controversial inquest ever held in the colony. At the court, streets were again cordoned off as a long queue formed to get into the public gallery. Among those admitted to the building were the relatives. The first issue before the court was whether or not a Gibraltar jury could be objective in its deliberations. Paddy McGrory, the Belfast lawyer representing the 3 families, thought not. He told the coroner, "The jurors have already been fed a poison for which there is no antidote." But the coroner said he would hear the inquest with a jury. And after the 11 men were sworn in, he told them, "You may have felt anger or resentment. Put such feelings aside." In the stifling heat of the packed courtroom, the hearing of the evidence then began, with a list of the exhibits gathered by the police as evidence. It now appears that at least 26 shots were fired when the SAS confronted the terrorists. That's the number of spent cartridge cases recovered from the area where they were killed. Earlier, the coroner told the jury that those who upheld the law had to act within the law, using only such force as was necessary to defend themselves or others.
It's a major find. A Loyalist weapons-making factory inside an innocuous-looking single-storey building overlooking a lake near Ballinahinch. In a sweep through the area in remote farmland, the security forces arrested 2 men at the scene and sealed off the premises. Police discovered enough components, including breech blocks and gun barrels, to produce hundreds of machine guns. The RUC and the Army called in their weapons specialists to examine the finds while the search for other arms-making equipment continued. Divers were used to check one suggestion that some of the weapon parts were discarded in the nearby lake. The discovery here is the 3rd significant Loyalist arms capture since the beginning of the year. In the first, a consignment of Kalashnikov rifles was recovered in County Armagh after they had been smuggled in from black market sources abroad. Such weapons have been used to murder 5 Catholics in the last 4 months, but in the other recent discovery, fragmentation grenades and launchers were recaptured from Loyalist paramilitaries. Despite these successes, the security forces are increasingly concerned by signs that paramilitary Loyalist groups are arming themselves on a growing scale. The emphasis has been on AK-47 rifles and semi-automatics, weapons the police believe often bought out of the proceeds of fraud and racketeering. It's one of the main reasons why the RUC is talking of strengthening its fraud squad, hoping to choke off the supply of funds and weapons to the sectarian murder gangs.